The ghost of winter light. From the window of the guest house, the warm lights of the main building glowed softly against the snow. It must be dinner time again. Laughter carried faintly on the breeze, familiar voices echoing across the cold distance between me and them. I quietly turned back to my easel, the scent of oil paint lingering in the air, and let my brush dance across the canvas. The strokes came instinctively, like breathing. The spring light I had yet to see, a light that belonged only to my imagination, spread across the canvas for me. Painting had always been my truest language, my refuge, and my defiance. That hadn't changed in 10 years. It still hasn't changed now. The snow in Chestnut Hill was the deepest it had been all winter. The garden hedges looked like ghosts themselves, white outlines against the pale glow of the moonlight. The path from the main house to my small guest house had disappeared completely under the snowdrifts. Inside, the antique table lamp cast a soft golden glow across the room. It was one of Father's old study lamps, a relic from his university years when he was still a professor of literature. The brass had tarnished with time, but the warmth of the light felt almost human. Still, every evening at precisely the same time, Mother brings my meals. The tray always reflects Margaret Collins's meticulous nature, warm food arranged with care, fresh fruit sliced neatly, and the small container of medicine she never forgets. But we never see each other face to face. She places the tray at the doorway, knocks 3 times, and leaves without a word. That has been our ritual for 10 years, an act of duty masquerading as care. "Elizabeth, dinner's ready," she calls from the other side of the door. Her voice, once soft and warm, now carries a distant politeness, the tone one reserves for a stranger you owe something to. I answer simply, "Thank you." That's all. That's the full extent of our conversation. I listen as her footsteps fade away. Her designer boots crunch distinctly on the frozen path, a rhythm I know better than my own heartbeat. Tonight, it's beef stew, the Collins family recipe, Rachel's favorite. On the edge of the white bone china plate, there's a faint trace of lipstick. Mother must have tasted it herself to check the seasoning. That small detail, so perfectly her. In the main house, Father is surely in his favorite armchair, reading the Boston Globe by the fireplace. A glass of his finest single malt rests beside him. The arts section likely features another article about my sister, the rise of next-generation artist Rachel Collins. I can almost hear his proud voice as he discusses it over brandy. Yes, Rachel has real talent. She's carrying on the Collins legacy beautifully. And Mother would smile, tilting her head modestly, saying, "We're just so proud of our only daughter." Their only daughter. It's a lie they've told so often. They believe it now. But perhaps it isn't a lie to them. Perhaps I truly am dead in their world. After all, I've been a ghost since the arson incident 10 years ago. I still remember that night, every flame, every sound, every gasp. I remember standing in the cold, watching my studio engulfed in fire. The heat was unbearable, yet I couldn't move. My canvases, my entire world, turned to ash in front of me. And when I woke in the hospital, staring at the sterile white ceiling, I could still smell the smoke clinging to my skin. The doctor said the scars wouldn't fade. My parents said, "It's better that she stays hidden." My sister said nothing at all. But later, I learned she had taken what was left, my sketches, my drafts, my unfinished dreams, and turned them into her own triumph. I had always sensed that hunger in her. The quiet, smiling greed behind her soft blue eyes. She didn't want to share the light, she wanted to steal it. The night deepens. Snow keeps falling. I paint in silence, the only sound the faint whisper of my brush across the canvas. On the wall beside me hang dozens of clippings, articles about Rachel's exhibitions, printed photos of her original works, Winter Light, Shadows of Dawn, Eternal Spring. Each piece bears my fingerprints. Each stroke began in my hands 10 years ago. The drawer of my desk is filled with evidence, dated sketches, photographs, videos of my creative process, every piece catalogued in meticulous order, proof of a truth buried for a decade. Next week, Rachel will receive the National Arts Award for work plagiarized from me. 10 years of silence will end that night. The castle she's built from my ashes will finally collapse. I glance again through the frosted window. The lights of the main house shimmer softly, mockingly, as if whispering, "You'll never be one of us again." I touch the scars on my face, the reminder of all that was taken, and smile faintly. The grand hall of the Boston Museum of Contemporary Art glittered under crystal chandeliers. The city skyline shimmered beyond the glass walls, lights reflecting off the snow-covered harbor. It was the night of the National Arts Award ceremony, the pinnacle of the American art world. Inside, everything sparkled: gowns, diamonds, ambition. Champagne glasses clinked softly, laughter rippled through the air, and journalists hovered like moths around the brightest names in art. I sat alone in the guest house, in front of my television. 10 minutes until the live broadcast began. The glow of the screen flickered across my studio, painting my face in pale blue light. The anchor's voice was cheerful, almost breathless. "Tonight, all eyes are on the Young Artist category. Rachel Collins's Winter Light series has captivated critics across the nation." The camera panned across the crowd, and there they were. Father, in his tailored suit. Mother, radiant in a champagne-colored gown. Their smiles were practiced, their pride rehearsed. They had waited for this moment, not for Rachel's art, but for what it said about them. The perfect family, the brilliant daughter, the legacy restored. "Now, a special feature on Rachel Collins," the anchor announced. A video montage began, footage of my sister, at work, in her studio, sunlight streaming through tall windows, brushes in perfect order, her face glowing with serene dedication. Every frame was a lie, every composition, every color palette, stolen from my soul. Her winter light paintings flashed across the screen, and I felt something twist inside me. They were beautiful, yes, because they had once been mine. When they announced her name, and this year's Young Artist Award goes to Rachel Collins, applause thundered through the hall. The camera zoomed in on Mother's trembling hands covering her face. Father stood, beaming, basking in reflected glory. Rachel walked gracefully to the stage, her dress glittering beneath the lights. She took the microphone and smiled softly. "This award," she began, her voice trembling just enough to sound sincere, "is dedicated to my sister, who passed away 10 years ago." The room fell silent. I froze. "My sister, Elizabeth, was the foundation of my art," she continued. "She taught me everything I know. Though she died tragically, her spirit lives in my work." Tears streamed down her face. The audience erupted in applause. Camera flashes flickered like lightning. On screen, my parents wept. A perfect tableau: grief, love, redemption. All lies. I turned down the volume. The applause faded into silence. Then I reached into my drawer and took out an envelope. Inside, my sketches, dated photos, process notes, the truth. "Well played, Rachel," I whispered. "You gave your final performance beautifully." Outside, snow fell silently. But within me, something had awakened. 10 years of silence, grief, and humiliation, all about to end. I opened my laptop. Draft emails, ready to send. Subject line: Art theft, the truth behind Rachel Collins's work. Attached: proof. Sketches, timestamps, video stills. Every detail that would dismantle her empire. At 10:05 p.m., I hit send. One email to the Boston Globe, another to the National Arts Committee, then one to every major art critic in the country. "This will be your last lie," I murmured. Chestnut Hill, the press conference. Rachel Collins to address artwork controversy, the evening news announced, the anchor's voice sharp and urgent against the hum of the newsroom. On screen, the camera cut to the Institute of Contemporary Art, where a restless crowd of reporters gathered beneath gray Boston skies. The air buzzed with tension, microphones raised, camera lights flashing, murmurs blending into a sea of speculation. Gone was the applause of the previous day's celebration. The crowd that had once toasted her triumph now waited to dissect her downfall. Rachel appeared before the press like a vision from another world, flawless makeup, a sculpted silhouette in a dove-gray designer suit, but the calm confidence that had always defined her was gone. Her movements were precise but brittle, every smile stretched thin across trembling lips. "I would like to address the allegations that were made yesterday," she began, her voice carefully measured through the microphone, echoing faintly in the marble atrium. "Indeed, My work is strongly influenced by my late sister. However, this is a legitimate artistic homage to a sister I deeply admired. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Pens scratched. Cameras clicked. The lie, delicate and deliberate, had just been spoken aloud. I stood at the guest house window, the soft glow of my laptop reflecting in the glass. I could almost taste the cold of the evening air. The layering of lies had begun again, this time on a grander stage. But now, the truth had an audience too. My fingers hovered above the keyboard. The next post was ready, evidence more detailed, dates more precise, photographs sharper. The truth would no longer hide behind prestige. Minutes later, an art blogger broke the silence of the internet. "This is breaking information just received," he announced. Elizabeth Collins's production notes, the concepts, techniques, and even color schemes perfectly match current Rachel Collins pieces. Within hours, every platform exploded. Comment threads turned into courtrooms. Hashtags flooded timelines. Hashtag art fraud, hashtag Collins scandal, hashtag stolen light. Night fell like ink spreading across the snow. From my window, I could see the faint movement inside the main house. Through the first-floor reception windows, I glimpsed my parents and Rachel, their silhouettes locked in a heated argument. Father pacing, mother clutching a glass of wine, Rachel's voice raised, trembling with something between panic and defiance. Tomorrow's newspapers would bear new headlines. From glory to infamy, the Collins art scandal unravels. The castle of illusions my family had built so carefully was beginning to collapse, one trembling confession at a time. I closed my laptop. The hum of the heater filled the silence. There was no need to wait for morning. The truth had already taken its first breath. After 10 years of being erased, art itself was coming back to life. The collapse. By dawn, Boston's art world had descended into chaos. The first online exposé went live at 7 a.m. A detailed feature from Art Monthly Review. It included footage documenting my creative process. The videos, dated between January and March 2014, showed me painting, my movements slow, deliberate, with snow visible outside the studio window. Each piece clearly predated Rachel's so-called masterpieces. "This is a shocking discovery," declared art critic Michael Steinberg, his voice captured on a televised broadcast. "The works in question are undoubtedly Elizabeth Collins's creations. Moreover, she was reported to have died. This revelation will shake the foundation of the contemporary art world." By 9 a.m., reporters lined our street in Chestnut Hill. The elegant calm of the neighborhood fractured under the strobe of camera flashes. Microphones thrust toward the main gate. Neighbors peeked through their curtains, whispering. Mother's garden club friends stood across the street, their designer coats pulled tight, watching like a Greek chorus witnessing tragedy. Rachel Collins's studio remains sealed, one journalist reported live. The Institute of Contemporary Art has yet to comment. At 10 a.m., more evidence surfaced, scanned clippings from 1990s newspapers showing Rachel and me as children, side by side, holding trophies. Collins sisters win junior art competition. The headline read, "No one could deny my existence now. No amount of social erasure could rewrite that." At 11 a.m., father received an email from Boston College. "In light of recent events, we are temporarily suspending your honorary professor status." The sound of him throwing his chair echoed faintly from the main house. By noon, mother's phone rang endlessly. "Margaret, is this true? Did you deceive us?" The voices of her social circle, once full of admiration, now demanded explanations. Her reign as Chestnut Hill's social queen was over. By evening, the Institute of Contemporary Art issued its statement. Rachel Collins's solo exhibition has been indefinitely postponed. All tickets will be fully refunded. The words hit the art community like a bell tolling at a funeral. Rachel's empire of prestige, awards, interviews, sponsorships, crumbled overnight. Re-emergence. As dusk deepened, I sat before the mirror, preparing for my own reintroduction to the world. A black cashmere turtleneck, a fine wool coat. I tied my hair back, leaving the scars visible. For once, I didn't hide. The woman in the mirror was not a ghost, she was the artist reborn from her own ashes. Breaking news. The TV blared in the corner. Elizabeth Collins, previously believed dead, has agreed to an exclusive interview with Art magazine. Moments later, a sleek black car arrived. The driver bowed slightly as he opened the door. I inhaled deeply, the cold air burning my lungs, and stepped in. The leather seat was soft, yet grounding, solid. For the first time in years, the world outside the guest house felt real. Screens across downtown Boston flashed with my name. Elizabeth Collins, first public appearance in 10 years. The interview. The headquarters of Art magazine was warm and understated, scented faintly with lilies. Editor-in-chief Sarah Watson greeted me personally. Her handshake was firm, her eyes clear, not of pity, but of respect. "Shall we begin?" she asked softly, leading me into the studio. Warm light, muted tones, a vase of pale pink tulips. Every detail was composed for balance, like an art piece itself. "Tell me," she said, "about the Winter Light series. How did it begin?" I smiled faintly. "On a winter's day in 2013, I began." And with that, the silence of 10 years broke. I told everything, about the arson, the betrayal, the nights I painted despite the pain, the moment I saw my own brushstrokes claimed under another name. "Art," I said quietly, "is born from truth. Without it, even beauty rots." The cameras captured every word, every scar, every breath. When it ended, Sarah leaned forward. "This interview," she whispered, "will redefine everything." The return of light. That night, I returned to the main house. The once bright living room was dark. My parents were gone. In Rachel's room, I found only a letter, trembling handwriting across cream paper. "I'm sorry for everything. I was weak. You painted with your soul, I only painted with fear. I'm leaving. Please, live freely." She had disappeared. I returned to my easel and made the first stroke on a blank canvas. The brush trembled slightly in my hand, not from hesitation, but from release. This was not revenge. It was rebirth. 1 year later, Boston's spring arrived early. The Collins house stood quieter, but lighter. My solo exhibition, Light and Shadow, Elizabeth Collins, opened on Newbury Street. Critics filled the gallery, their voices hushed in reverence. My new pieces, luminous, tender, unapologetically human, hung alongside my recovered works. A corner display, titled Origins, showed the sketches Rachel had once stolen, yet I didn't include them to accuse her, only to tell the story of where truth begins. Elizabeth Collins's new works possess a spirituality that transcends pain, wrote Contemporary Art Review. They speak not of vengeance, but of peace. At home, life moved gently. Mother tended her tulips. Father sorted through old photo albums. "Look," he murmured, showing me a picture of 2 smiling girls holding brushes, sunlight on their faces. The real memories were here all along. Epilogue. Dear sister. Months later, a package arrived from France. Inside, a watercolor of a parasol flower field, delicate and alive. The signature read, "To my sister, with love, M.W. Rachel, now Maria White, taught art to children in Provence." Her letter said simply, "When I paint with my students, I feel like I've found my true self again." I added one final piece to my exhibition, Dear Sister. 2 lights, one strong and brilliant, the other soft and warm, reaching toward the same dawn. Visitors often stood before it in silence. Some saw reconciliation, others redemption. But to me, it was simply a prayer for art, for truth, for the healing that follows the fire. That evening, Mother called softly from the garden. "Elizabeth, dinner's ready. Join us, as a family." The air carried the scent of tulips and beef stew. The scars on my face caught the glow of twilight, turning faintly golden. Outside, spring breathed against the window, as if the world itself had decided to begin again.